tatta dhimta takita dhimta dhimta tam.
Welcome to my channel. My name is Padma, and on this channel I share with you the practice and philosophy of body-led spiritual inquiry. I'm very inspired by ancient traditions, including those from India, which focus on the divinity of nature, which have archetypes and deities and sensations, or rasas as we call them in Indian philosophy. And I draw on all these when I share these teachings and practices. Today I would like to share some reflections on how we can recognize teaching or revelation, which is really the same thing, in our daily lives. How we can sense when nature is gifting us with wisdom or with revelation. This kind of recognition is very much something of the body. So it's not a mental technique that you can have a certain template and then you can apply the template. It really emerges from dropping down into our bodies in a very multisensorial and multidimensional way. When we are really connected to our senses, not just simply as projecting them outwards, but really the sensation that comes from the senses, the seeing with the eyes, and the attentively listening to everything, not only to particular things that we want to hear in a particular time, but that open, that choiceless, open attending. And that is the basis of this multisensorial intelligence. Let me illustrate this with an example, and I think it's much more easy to do this than to really speak about it in an abstract way. This comes from a woman that I was practicing with this week in my individual program, and what I'm doing is sharing the experience that we had. So we were exploring the teaching of the scorpion. As some of you may know, the scorpion is a very ancient archetype in many different cultures. You can find the scorpion in the pillars of Göbekli Tepe, which is at least 12,000 years old in Turkey. And you can also find the scorpion in Indian sculpture and archetypes. It's very difficult to actually fully comprehend the teaching of the scorpion if we approach with the mind. So people have tried to grapple with it, and they have speculated that it's got something about mystery, it's got something about a kind of danger, concealed danger, it's got something to do about the depths and about sensuality and sexuality. But there is something more expansive and more complex about the teaching of the scorpion. In the ancient Indian text, the invitation of the teaching of the scorpion is that when you meet the poison, which is here it's also referred to as the rasa of the poison, which means it's the whole constellation, the sensation of the poison, when you meet it at its source or at its mouth, it is rendered impotent. And of course, this is quite baffling. What does it mean? Does it mean that we have to be as poisonous as the scorpion? That we have to attack it with the scorpion, with its own toxin? So, when we were exploring this, something happened in this woman's life which really revealed the fullness of this teaching. It so happened that in that week, she had an infestation of mice in her home. And she didn't want to kill the mice brutally with poison. So she tried to set traps where you could trap the mouse and drop them off somewhere else. And these traps had peanut butter to seduce the mice. But she found that the mice very cleverly licked away the peanut butter without setting off the trap. Then she got slightly more sophisticated traps with the same result. It seemed as if the mice knew how to balance themselves on the trap in such a way that it did not set the trap off. So here's this beautiful example, wisdom of meeting something at its source, at its mouth. So the mouse meets the trap she goes to the trap, meet it at its source, and how? Very sophisticated embodied intelligence of how to use her weight and movement on that trap so that it doesn't set it off. It's a completely embodied intelligence. So she's not coming with a mental roadmap. She's actually sensing her way, moving herself delicately, the balance of weight, momentum, meeting the nature of the movement inherent in the trap itself, the weight, sensing at what point it will set itself off. And in meeting that, she renders it important. Isn't it amazing that she receives this teaching when the teaching of the scorpion had kind of baffled her, and she was looking for a more fuller revelation of that teaching? So when we apply this in real life, it is not that we meet those scorpion-like movements or events in our reality by attacking in the same way, or by being as toxic as the scorpion or as venomous as the scorpion, but we consider the whole movement of the scorpion. We consider its attachment to earth. We consider its concealed movement. We consider how it humbly goes along the ground. We consider that when it strikes, it comes out of fear, and it's very rough. So there's movements in the dance which is about this repeated and rough striking. So the scorpion is not very strategic. It is doing this in self-defense. And it is when we encounter the fullness of this constellation, it awakens a completely different intelligence in our own bodies. And we bring that intelligence into that encounter. The mind is led by that embodied intelligence, including that intelligence which senses when is an event or an occurrence or an encounter, the scorpion archetype. So all of this intelligence comes from the body and not from the mind. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of a glimpse into how these teachings are revelations, how they become really intimate. And the beauty of these revelations is that you don't really feel like you are a stranger looking at the trees, and the trees are somehow remote and separate from you, but you feel like they're all looking at you and they are ready to gift you with a revelation or a teaching. They're ready to help you. They're ready to guide you and teach you. If you have the attending, that multisensorial, humble, intimate attending that can actually discern and recognize when this teaching is there for us. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this week you will just drop into your bodies and just be aware of what may be nature's little gifts to you in your own life. I look forward to your company again on this channel.